Am I the a-hole for telling my niece what her dad did and causing him to be uninvited from her wedding? I, female 34, had a bad history with my brother-in-law for years, and I got contact after he got me kicked out of my university that he worked in by telling a lie and ruining my future. I got a restraining order against him later, but my parents were against it. I still had/have a close relationship with my niece. She and my sister visited alone, and then began seeing her out or at my place. But my family pressured me to not disclose to her the reason of no contact with brother-in-law. So as my niece grew up, she thought we had a normal family dispute and tried to get us to reconcile many times, being encouraged by my sister and parents. But I got my niece to stop when she was 19. Now she's 21 and getting married soon. I got a wedding invite from her, and I felt cornered because there was no way I'd come knowing my brother-in-law will be there. Declining to go would be devastating for her as she always seek my support. So I returned the invitation and made up an excuse so I won't attend. But my niece came to ask why I hate her dad so much that I can't even show up to her wedding. I tried to vaguely explain that her dad wasn't a nice person to me, but she demanded to know exactly what he did, saying unless I put her in the picture, she won't talk to me again. So I ended up telling her, and she left without saying anything. Then my sister called and was crying, saying my niece just uninvited her dad to the wedding because of whatever nonsense I told her about him, and ruined not just the event, but the family relationship. She said it's been years, and I was crazy to even still be remembering what happened. Then she said she won't let me alienate my niece from her dad, which she claimed to be my endgame. My parents were upset too, and said it caused this problem when I had the choice to show up to the wedding and not to deal with my brother-in-law because there will be other family there, thinking I should just go and we'll be fine. I only had Mike on my side. He helped me with the restraining order and keeps saying my niece had to know eventually. But I know this was horrible timing, and because of what I did, my brother-in-law can't attend his own daughter's wedding, now that she's saying she'd call it off if my family keep pressuring her to reinvite him. They're demanding I fix it, but Mike says I'm good. He could just be saying this because he's on my side. Backstory: my brother-in-law wanted the money my grandmother left to go to my niece, but my parents used it for my college education. I went to the college my brother-in-law works in. He's a professor. And he falsely accused me of cheating and advocating/encouraging groups to cheat and had me kicked out. Now for the top comments. Not a-hole. Your brother-in-law sounds like a real piece of work. Who thinks it's okay to lie and get someone kicked out of the university? Crazy how a university would expel a person for cheating with absolutely zero evidence whatsoever. You'd be shocked about the crap people get kicked out for with no evidence besides a flimsy excuse. Not a-hole. Welcome to my favorite letter on a family bingo card. E for enabling abusers. Shut up, you. Having a problem with your tormentor is shattering our family illusion. And, well, golly, it's downright inconvenient. Creating drama, I say. What? You didn't actually expect us to back you up against a guy so bad you were granted a restraining order, did you? Your sister is married to him, and it would take backbone to figure that out. Staying quiet until your niece was 21 was already swallowing enough for the children or for the family. She cornered you and made you choose between giving her the truth or suffering yet another injustice at the hands of your tormentor by losing her too. You didn't create crap. He was an awful person, and your sucky family is reaping what they sowed when they decided to sweep his actions under the rug and value the life normalcy over the life and future of their daughter. Screw them. Not a-hole. The backstory blows my mind. It sounds like he punished you for what your parents did. How the hell does he even get a say in what the family does with their inheritance? Oh, he specifically doesn't. It does sound like the money was earmarked for his child, though. And I hope he please correct me if I misunderstood. By virtue of being related to grandma. And I could understand a parent being angry if that money meant for their child being taken by other family. It doesn't excuse his behavior. What he did was reprehensible. Next story. Am I the a-hole for making my son deal with rotting meat? I go hunting every year. I'm not a trophy hunter by any means. I do it for meat and almost purely for economic reasons at this point. Taking a few of deer off my property once a year keeps my freezer stocked, and the grocery bill way down, which is important because finances can be tight sometimes. As a little relevant background, the bulk of the meat is kept in a large freezer in the garage, and about once a week we pull out what we will need for the next week or so, which means the freezer is normally only opened about once a week. My son, 15, has decided that he is vegetarian about 6 months ago, which my wife and I have no problems with. We started making meatless meals twice a week and made sure every other dinner was such that the meat was separate from everything else so he could still eat with us. This has been working great for the last 6 months with no complaints. However, last week when I pulled the meat for the week out of our freezer in the garage, he decided to come behind me and unplug the freezer. I guess he thought we weren't doing enough to support his cause? He never even spoke to us or complained about our twice-a-week setup prior to unplugging the freezer. Well, as you can imagine, with a now unrefrigerated pile of meat in the summer heat, it didn't take long for the meat to start to rot and stink. The freezer kept the smell in for a while, so by the time we finally noticed, everything was completely putrid. I asked my son if he knew what happened, and he proudly said that he had unplugged it on purpose, and now we would have to be meat-free. I told him that he didn't have the right to ruin a freezer full of meat and raise the family's grocery bill without discussing it with anyone. I told him that as part of his punishment, he had to clean up his mess, meaning dispose of all of the rotting meat and either sufficiently cleaned and sanitized the freezer or purchase a new one out of his savings. He called me Nahal for making him interact with meat in any form, but he made the mess. He needs to clean it up. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. I'm a vegetarian myself, and I'd argue what is done is worse because the deer have now died for no reason. Plus, it's not okay for him to intentionally ruin the family's groceries and waste money. Buying a new freezer might be overkill, but I don't think it's unreasonable at all to clean it. I'm wondering if the smell of the rot can ever truly be removed, and if it can't, if it'll contaminate the new meat. Not the a-hole. Can confirm. A tube of rotten turkey meat somehow ended up in my washing machine and ruined a load of laundry. It took filling the entire thing up with bleach or vinegar several times over the course of a week to tame the smell, and another 2 weeks of daily cleaning with several packages of the machine cleaner tabs to completely eradicate the smell. Chances are, the smell in Opie's freezer saturated the internal insulation. The entire unit would be ruined if that's the case. 1000% not the a-hole. I'm fully vegan. Have been for 4 years. I wouldn't even unplug someone's meat supply because it is against the whole point of being vegetarian or vegan. It forces additional deaths of animals completely unnecessarily. By the way, you hunting a couple deer a year that are on your property, and presumably of decent size and age, is actually quite vegan of you. Best of luck dealing with him. He needs education in not eating meat. This. If someone wants to get his head out of his behind and take stock of what his actions have cost, he will be in for a shock. This should be part of the punishment in my opinion. Get him to work through the implications of what is done. His parents are likely to end up buying at least some meat during the year, and they wouldn't have done if he hadn't destroyed their store. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for threatening to sue my brother and forcing my parents to pay me to drop the lawsuit? My brother is a mechanic and started his own business, so our family decided to switch. My wife's car's brakes are at 20%, so she got them replaced there. But then she got into an accident the next day. She told me she slammed on the brakes, but it took so long for the car to stop and ended up rear-ending the next car. She has soft tissue damage from the accident and still has neck pain. My wife is a very safe driver, doesn't even speed and has never gotten a ticket. So I was suspicious and brought the car back to our original mechanic. He showed us that the new brakes were actually completely worn down, even worse than our original. I brought it up with my brother, and he admitted in person, he refused to give me a confession in writing, that he or his employee screwed up and put in worn-out brakes. I'm furious that he might have killed my wife, and I demanded he at least pay for the increase in my insurance premiums, increase of $67.50 per month. Over 5 years, so about $4,050, and $30 per day over 3 months, $2,700, for Uber rides for my wife, so she gets a break from driving after her accident. My brother refused, as he said he doesn't have the money and refuses to talk to us again. My wife told me to drop the matter so we could keep the peace, but I told her my brother can't get away with this. We start filing the paperwork for a lawsuit with a lawyer. And my parents get told about the lawsuit and rush over to tell me they'll write me out of their will if I sue my brother. I feel like an idiot for trusting him. He's always been a spoiled kid who thought he could get away with anything. So my parents rushing to defend him shouldn't be surprised. So I told them I would only drop it if they took the amount out of his half of the inheritance. They paid what I asked, but told me I should be ashamed for betraying my own blood. I told him he should be ashamed for nearly getting my wife killed, though I'm not sure if threatening to sue my sibling was overboard. Now for the top comments. Not today, Hull. Tell them. Fine, you'll drop the civil lawsuit and go to the police to file a criminal complaint. What he did is highly illegal. Yep. Even putting the actual fraud aside, sketchy mechanics like him almost always use hot parts. Wouldn't be shocked in the least if the brother already has criminal ties. His wife could have died. He needs to report him to the police. The brother is a ticking bomb and will get someone truly hurt, or worse, if he keeps practicing as a mechanic. Not today, Hull. In fact, if your wife is experiencing neck pain, I would go ahead and sue. Here's why. I'm an attorney working in motor vehicle accident defense claims. I am not your attorney, and this is not legal advice, just my personal opinion. Car accidents, even minor ones, can seriously mess up your spine for life. If your wife still has neck pain, she may have damaged her cervical spine. It will show up on an MRI. If that's the case, there's nothing that can be done for her besides physical therapy, and, when the damage inevitably gets worse down the line, a cervical spinal fusion. That thing costs money, and your wife is entitled to that money. She's also entitled to money for the emotional distress she has inevitably suffered after experiencing an accident caused by failing brakes. In fact, she's uncomfortable driving now. All of that money is going to come to far more than $8,000. Think quadruple that amount, minimum. Plus, if your wife ever injures her neck/back again in an accident that she's not at fault for, whatever compensation she's entitled to is going to be hella reduced on the basis of pre-existing injuries for her prior accident. Best to get the money she's entitled to now, in case God forbid she needs it further down the line. And your brother won't be paying for it. His insurance company will. Make his premiums go up instead of your own, and let your wife receive the money she's entitled to. And if your parents would rather protect your brother, who could have been responsible for killing your wife, it may well be responsible for killing someone in the future if he doesn't learn his lesson, probably best to seriously reconsider your relationship with them. Wishing you both the best of luck. Not today, Hull. Look, I've worked in an auto shops and have thousands of brake jobs under my belt. And I'll tell you this was no accident. Your brother, or the technician who installed the brake pads, knew they were more worn than the original, and did it anyway. There is absolutely no way that he could not, unless he employs someone else as a mechanic. It's possible that the wrong parts box was pulled by mistake, and instead of having a new set, whoever pulled the part pulled one of the core returns instead. This is really the only way I can figure that brake pads even more worn than the ones you came in with even got involved. But this would have been obvious to your brother, and should never have been put onto your vehicle. Somewhere along the way, he said screw it, possibly due to some time deadline or inability to find the right parts, and put them on anyway. And then he lied to you saying the job was completed. This is seriously messed up. This is negligence and fraud. If your wife had been killed, he could have been charged with negligent manslaughter. If this was deliberate sabotage, then you're possibly looking at attempted homicide. Like I said, this is seriously messed up. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to punish my daughter for not sharing her makeup with her younger sister? I'm a mother of two, Maya 17 and Roxanne 14. Both my daughters love makeup and beauty. When they were younger, I used to get them equal makeup tools. But now Maya has a job and buys her own makeup with different, more expensive, brands. And like Roxanne, Maya is responsible with her makeup and beauty products. She keeps them organized and doesn't lose them easily like Roxanne often does. As a result, Roxanne doesn't have much makeup stuff, and recently this issue occurred. Maya got paid last week and went shopping with her friends and bought makeup products. Roxanne saw the stuff Maya bought since they share a room, and then came to me and her dad complaining that Maya refuses to let her share/use the makeup products she bought. My husband asked Maya if it was true, and Maya said the makeup she bought cost her money and effort at the job, and didn't think it was fair to share with her sisters, and she keeps losing/ruining it all the time, forcing Maya to buy more and cost her more money and work. My husband told her that this wasn't right, and she should share the stuff she buys with her younger sister. Maya still said no, which caused my husband to say he'd punish her for how mean she was being towards her sister Roxanne. Maya still said no, and my husband told her to go upstairs, then turned to me and said Maya needs to be punished for treating her sister cruelly and making her cry. I told him I don't see a valid reason to punish Maya since she did nothing wrong. He was puzzled, chuckled and asked if I really don't see what's wrong with Maya's behavior. I responded that Maya worked hard to earn money and buy her makeup, which she rightfully deserves to keep for herself. He got upset and said I was treating the girls differently and showing heavy favoritism towards Maya. After I said I won't punish her for not sharing, I stated that it wasn't Maya's fault her sister keeps losing the makeup products. But I said Maya needs to learn to share with her sister since they both have the same interest in makeup. And by not punishing her, I'd be encouraging her to become selfish. But I don't see it. He called me negative and short-sighted for not understanding what he was talking about, and accused me of being more friend to Maya than a mom, which what I should be. The argument got worse, and my husband says it's my fault if Roxanne starts resenting her sister. Not today, Hole. Good for you. Let your husband start paying for the same makeup for the younger kiddo, and see how quickly he changes his mind that they should be equal. Perfect response. Not today, Hole. Seriously this. Tell your husband to share his money to your youngest so she can buy her own makeup. Not today, Hole at all. If you force Maya, she will end up resenting you and her sister. Maya's not the problem. She is responsible, works, saves up. By all accounts, she is doing everything right. Forcing her to share spoiling the younger sister. She's the one showing bad behavior, no respect for property, and entitlement towards other people's property and jealousy. And you just do not reward bad behavior. Also, sharing makeup is not sanitary. It is a good way to spread eye infections and cold sores. Thank you. It's totally unsanitary to share makeup. Not today, Hall. It's unsanitary to share makeup, so she did the right thing saying no anyway. That's just what I was thinking. No one should share makeup. Am I the a-hole for laughing at my brother-in-law's income? I, 35 female, met my husband Ray, 35 male, about 12 years ago. He was a junior engineer at the time, but he was perceptive, considerate, funny, and just overall my ideal guy. The only thing I didn't like was the way he and his brother Pete, now 38 male, interacted. Pete loves to talk about how successful he is and his friends were, and undermines Ray's accomplishments as that's good for your age. Ray overlooks it because he wants to be supportive of his brother. At the time, I wanted to say something about Pete's arrogance, since not only was I not impressed by his income, it's not a secret that Pete is noticeably uglier, inside and out, than his younger brother. I didn't, because Ray preferred I let it be. Pete continues to do this for the next 12 years. I tried hinting that we're all doing well and this is an awkward topic, but Pete brushed it off with patronizing, saying like, you'll get there. Fast forward to now, we're all married with children. 2 weeks ago, Pete with his wife and son dropped by for a visit since Pete was on a business trip. Within a couple hours, Pete starts bragging about his recent raise. He's finally broken X $100,000 per year, and his wife will be going for a promotion that will land her around Y $100,000 per year. Ray was just as supportive as he usually is. Then Pete goes, you'll get there eventually. Our son, who is playing nearby with Pete's son, stopped and asked if that's a lot. Pete's son said, yeah, duh. And I said, no. Pete then laughed and told me to not set too high of an expectation for my children. So, and this is where I might be the a-hole, I laughed and said, if you must know, X $100,000 is what we paid in taxes last year. Pete and his wife went silent, and Ray tried to change the subject. Then Pete suggested that we should get a new accountant because that's way too much for Texas. I lost my patience and asked him how much he thought our job titles should pay in Texas, or if he was still under the impression that his little brother is an entry-level engineer. Admittedly, it was not my best moment, but I really disliked him for trying to put down my husband in front of my son. After they left, I got a text from Pete about how I owe him an apology for embarrassing him in front of his son. I told him I will not, but I'm happy to never speak of income again if he will stop bringing it up in front of my son. Ray agrees with me, but asks a favor to let Pete talk in the future as long as it's not in front of the kids. He says his brother has some self-esteem issues, and if it makes Pete feel better to pretend he's more successful than Ray, Ray's okay with it. I really don't see the need to keep babysitting an almost 40-year-old man's ego, and frankly, I don't want a man anywhere near my son. But as I don't have a sibling with a self-esteem issue, I don't know if I'm overreacting. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. You are super patient. 12 years. I wouldn't have lasted one. To be honest, it was tempting to go off on him earlier, especially after his toast at our wedding that made my dad almost throw him out. But the only reason I didn't was because my husband made it funny later and we ended up laughing it off. Wait, Pete did this patronizing stunt at your wedding? You might need to tell your husband point blank that his relationship with his brother is incredibly unhealthy, and it's toxic that they are teaching their sons to continue this dynamic as cousins. It started as an okay toast but got condescending and ended with a not bad for a bachelor's degree, right? Brother-in-law has a PhD. My dad got angry because 1, rude, and 2, he doesn't like PhDs. But people chilled after my husband made some jokes about his brother being convoluted/hard to understand, and ended with not bad for a PhD, right? That said, my son will be spending less time with brother-in-law's son until habits improves. It sounds like your husband may have normalized his role of being his brother's punching bag, and then smoothing it over in front of company so no one holds brother-in-law accountable. Obviously, I don't know these people, and so you'd be able to tell if this is accurate or off base. Your husband might need to be reminded that everyone gets insecure and jealous, but most people learn healthy ways of processing, not taking cheap shots during a wedding speech or raising your son to look down on his poor, as brother-in-law assumed you were, cousins. Not the a-hole at all. It sounds like brother-in-law is getting worse over time, and that's probably because no one shut down his behavior before. Better late than never. You shut that nonsense down. Don't apologize. And if he doesn't see the problems with his behavior, tell him not to worry. He'll get there eventually. I'm definitely borrowing your line if this doesn't come down. Next story. Am I the a-hole for leaving for uni without telling my parents? Anyway, I'm female 19 and literally just moved out of my family home. By just, I mean today, in the morning. I thought my decision was right, but one of my new flatmates thinks I'm in the wrong, so I need some impartial opinion. I'm the oldest of 6 siblings. I have 5 younger brothers, and I lived with them and my parents. My parents had me very young. They were both 16 at a time. And from the very young age, I was expected to babysit them, take care of them, and help with a lot of chores. My brothers never had to do any chores whatsoever. When I went to secondary school, I started questioning things. And when I started 6th form, my parents suggested I quit because I won't be going to university anyway since I have to help with my brothers, as my mother won't be able to do so alone. I did my A-levels anyway. I tried talking to my parents about university plans, but they kept telling me to drop it because I'm staying. I, however, was adamant that I want to go. I was to apply for financing as an independent student, without them taking my parents' income into consideration. It was very difficult, but I managed it, and I had all correspondence sent to my friend's address. Anyway, with all finance sorted, academic year is about to start, and my uni had moving-in date today until the end of the week. In the morning, when my parents went out and my siblings went to school, I packed everything I needed, like clothes and basic necessities, left a letter I prepared, and left without them knowing, getting a train to my university town. I had to do it that way because they wouldn't let me go. I've had countless of phone calls from them since the morning. I've picked up once, and they shouted at me, demanding I come back or tell them where exactly I am. I didn't give them my address. I didn't pick up other phone calls, and I thought I was right about this. But when I told my flatmates, one of them called me an a-hole and that my parents are probably worried sick, and I should give them my address at the very least. Now I don't know. Am I the a-hole for leaving so suddenly? You're never the a-hole for escaping abuse. Your flatmate is young and maybe hasn't experienced the type of background you just came from. I wouldn't take their comments to heart. If you had told them in advance, they absolutely would have stopped you and messed up your education. If you give them your address, you can bet everything you have that they'll show up at your door to drag you back. I hope you thrive and have a wonderful time at uni. I'm not sure if anyone has told you this yet, but I'm proud of you. What you did wasn't easy and took a lot of strength and courage. You're absolutely not the a-hole. Not the a-hole, but I would stop telling your flatmates anything if that's how they respond. You can let them know that any way a person escapes a harmful situation is okay, and that your parents know you left and that you're safe, and that's all that matters. With that said, if possible, I'd get another phone, change your number, and get rid of your old phone. They can track it, especially if it's on their phone plan, in some situations, and I doubt they will easily let go of their free babysitter and free labor. They will harass you forever. Cut them off completely. And be careful who you tell about your home situation moving forward. Information is power. Sometimes when we're in unhealthy environments, we tend to talk to anyone who seems to have a sympathetic ear, but you need to make sure these people are trustworthy people first. If there's a free school counselor, I'd make an appointment with them instead. And never tell your family where you are. If you keep in contact with your siblings and they push for info, I'd have another university picked out with basic information that you can say enough about to have a convincing story. A university far from where you actually are. Not the a-hole. Please let your school know the situation and have them lock down your info. Also, call the police for both your town and the school to make them aware you are safe, an adult, and you are fleeing from a horrible environment. That you are concerned for your safety, possible retaliation, and being brought home and held against your will. If you do not do this, your parents will end up getting info and address from you and the police will be at your door. If you do not have your birth certificate on you, they may try physically detain you at the police station and let your parents know where you are. Once the school is made aware and both police stations, please tell your roommates that you are fleeing a horrible situation and that allowing your parents to know where you are is safety risk. It would also be helpful to call a few key relatives to let them know your side of the story and that you are safe. Next story. Am I the a-hole for kicking out my daughter after she pawned a family heirloom? I have 3 daughters. Lucy, female 21, Diane, female 17, and Rosa, female 15. Their father, my husband, unfortunately passed away in a work accident 11 years ago. We were all devastated and it was a terrible shock. We were able to get by with my parents helping out with the kids so that I could work. We're doing much better now financially. However, I've been having a lot of problems with Lucy. Not long after she turned 18 and finished school, she's suddenly gone off the rails, is mingling with some very sketchy people and I don't know what to do with her. She's gotten into heavy smoking cigarettes and weed, partying at every opportunity, getting drunk every day, and I suspect she's been doing hard stuffs. She started treating the house like a bread and breakfast and is very disrespectful to me and her sisters. I didn't raise her to act like this, and I'm at my wit's end. I've tried to get her into rehab and therapy, but she just refuses to go and gets very angry when I bring it up. Lucy stays with us rent-free. She works a job in retail and buys her own groceries but blows the rest of her income. The last straw for me was something that happened 3 weeks ago. Diane and Rosa have pieces of very expensive jewelry that they inherited from their dad's mother after she passed away last year. The jewelry had been in the family for generations. Whilst they were at school, their pieces of jewelry went missing from their rooms. Diane and Rosa were incredibly upset when they noticed the jewelry was missing. I asked Lucy if she knew what happened to the jewelry. Lucy lied and said she didn't know. I pressed the issue and pointed out that she went partying and spent loads of money. And Lucy eventually admitted that she stole the jewelry and pawned it. Even though it was kind of obvious that it was Lucy, I was still shocked that she would do something like that. I told Lucy that this is it, and that I'm kicking her out. I told her that she needs to be out in 3 days. I didn't think it was fair on Diane and Rosa to keep someone like Lucy around when she keeps causing chaos and destruction in our home. And I was also worried about Diane and Rosa being influenced by her. Lucy left the next day and went to go stay with my parents, who were saying I'm a horrible mother for kicking Lucy out and that I'm clearly playing favorites. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. If they are heirlooms gifted to your daughters, you need to report the jewelry as stolen. Local police get pawn sheets from local pawn stores and check them against stolen property reports. Your daughter will probably get arrested because pawn shops take the IDs of people pawning goods, but you may be able to retrieve the jewelry. I don't think Opie is an a-hole for kicking her daughter out of the house, but I do think she will be one if she doesn't try to get the jewelry back. Not the a-hole. I wholly agree with this. Do not lose those family heirlooms that belong to your other daughters because of Lucy's dishonest behavior. I think Lucy pawned the jewelry for drug money. Both are correct. I am recovering, and being an addict doesn't absolve us from our actions. What it does mean is that we were sick. People get sober and try to atone for their actions, but whether the victim accepts it is up to them. We can't change the past. We are responsible for our past. We can try our best to make amends and the rest is out of our hands. It's complicated because it's not simple. Not the a-hole. Your daughter has some things to figure out. Maybe she will, maybe she won't, but ultimately you still have 2 other non-destructive children to prioritize and care for. She's 21, and while you'll always be her mom, she's an adult and responsible for who she wants to be, where she wants to go, and what she wants to do. Meanwhile, you have actual minors to worry about. Hopping onto this comment to point out that Opie needs to check the credit reports of the younger children and herself. You need to make sure no credit card/identity theft has taken place. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to pay for my half of the rent? I, 19 female, have been living with a close friend, 19 female, since last December. We co-signed a lease so both our names are on paper for the place we're renting out, and we pay 50-50 for the rent. The lease was up a couple of months ago, but we were still making back-to-back monthly payments due to our agreement with our landlord. Everything was going good, up until a couple months ago when my roommate started acting differently. It started off with some small things, like when she'd have a bad day at work, she would get home and basically take it out on me. Which fine, I can handle minor mood swings. I thought it would just be a temporary thing anyways. However, it gradually got worse. She was constantly mad at me and would look for anything to berate for, sometimes without even giving a reason why after. Not only that, but she kept acting like the place was solely hers. She would say things to mutual friends about how it was her place, therefore she had a final say in whatever happened to it, or who was welcome and who wasn't without even consulting me. I finally had enough, so I decided that it was time for me to move out. I gave our landlord my 1-month notice to be out by the end of September and told her about it the next day. She gave the landlord her 1-month notice about 2 weeks after I told her, but by then it was already September, so she informed him she would be gone by October. Even before I gave my notice to the landlord, I've been staying with a different friend, 20 male, so I haven't been there since almost a month ago now. The other day, she messaged me saying the rent was gonna be due for October and that I had to pay my half. But I told her, I'm afraid I can't do so as I gave my notice that I'd be gone by the end of September. She ended up getting mad and saying that this was not fair and that I'm totally screwing her over. I haven't even been living there for almost a month now, so I feel I shouldn't have to pay for a place that isn't mine anymore. But I do feel kind of bad about it. So am I the a-hole for refusing to pay my half of the rent? Not the a-hole. Your written lease had expired and you were operating under a month-to-month lease. You properly informed your landlord and co-tenant that you were not going to continue the lease and paid your portion of the final month of your lease. You did literally nothing wrong, legally or morally. Not the a-hole. You gave your 1-month notice on time and will be out in 1 month. She wanted the place to be solely hers, and that's what she got. Lol. Good luck, OP. Just from OP's other posts, the issues coincided with OP's boyfriend who was living there at a time picking up hard substances after running from his own addict parents. OP never posted a conclusion on if they kicked him out and how that all went down. I can definitely see why the roommates might have taken a stand on who's allowed through the door after that. We both mutually agreed to kick him out, and I ran everything by her before we let him move in. In no way did I ever treat it like it wasn't both our place. I viewed us as equals, so I never did anything without consulting her first. Whereas she let her addict brother stay with us for months on end without even running it by me. Oof, yeah, I feel you were not the a-hole in regards to leaving or the lease. Just wasn't sure if the prior post had caused a change in her behavior. Completely understandable. However, I don't know what triggered a change. I wish I did, and I wish it was something we could have sorted out, but it doesn't seem that way as I've tried talking to her about it, and she said I was just lashing out and being dramatic.